I'm Jason here with the All Things Open team. We're here with Anya. Please introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Jason. So my name is Anya Derbakova. I'm a senior startup solutions architect at AWS, and I work with healthcare startups primarily. And at AWS, I talk to my clients about their upcoming workloads, new projects, and how we can best assist them to grow their business. I'm very interested in the healthcare space, so that's kind of a passion of mine, I would say. So it really helps that the customers I have now gotten to work with showcase all kinds of different capabilities to me, and I love seeing what they do. And I've been there for 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I've been working with a number of startups. I've been a startup founder and CTO multiple times. Really enjoy the startup space and just love to see where companies go as they develop and grow.
Great. Well, thanks for the introduction. How are you using AI in your daily work, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so a couple of ways I would say. I would say that for me, even as a solutions architect who is searching a lot of disparate information out there, typically through documentation on AWS, that is public information out there, right? Typically, people would use something like a tool to do that, something like a model to search on a large corpus of data that's very common. So people would use, like ChatGPT or something like that. We do have approved ways to do that to essentially help you out to get some at least sources that you can dive into and like save some of that time. That certainly helps. So I do use some of that now and again. Other ways we use AI in our daily work is helping us with just some of the daily tasks. Like we take a lot of notes for our customers because we do try to keep our interactions continuous, like from meeting to meeting, so we understand what happened. And you do handle a handful of customers, so sometimes it's harder to keep track of. So we do have some actually AI internal tools that do like note summarization for us, help us extract information from our client tracking systems and things like that. So that's something that I do like at work, I would
That's pretty
say.
cool. Nice.
In my daily life, that's like not work related. I certainly use it for learning and like coding as well. It's very helpful, just to kind of, if you're doing some kind of demos and things for yourself, or like for something like All Things Open, you would, chat with ChatGPT and it can help you come up with some quick code samples, things like that, or come up with dinner recipes, So yeah, a couple of different ways.
Perfect. Excuse me. All right, we're going to continue on the AI piece. What should developers consider when they're looking at AI tools? What are some of the things that they should be aware of, be cautious of?
Oh, yeah, so it's a great question. In terms of what our customers look at and what I would recommend looking at is what domain you work in, right, and what kind of data you're actually working with the AI model. Some models are very specific about what data you can or cannot use in the model. So specifically, like maybe healthcare data or PHI, personal identifiable information, or things like that. A lot of models don't allow you to use that in that. So if in those models, so just kind of keeping in mind what domain you're in and like what kind of things it does with the data. So that's probably the first thing I would call out. Other things is what is your comfort level for your queries being used for training those models, right? That's the other thing to keep in mind. Some models do use your queries and like documents you upload, for example, to train subsequent model iterations. But some models don't. So like if that's important to you, that's something to keep in mind as well. And obviously for things like developers, I think it's just important to see what gets the job done too, right? So if you have like some kind of standardized way you're, evaluating things, or like looking at how the code is generated, just to see what's most helpful. Like it seems pretty obvious, but sometimes, organizational tools are introduced and maybe they're not as helpful. So just kind of, if you have a choice, do some evaluation work and see like on your common tasks, which ones are the most useful before you commit to something.
Perfect. Those are great. Do you have a favorite AI tool or an AI tool that the open source community should be aware of?
Ah, favorite AI tool. Well, I would say for, like just daily life kind of stuff that, helps me, plan my dinners and, vacations and such. I mean, I do personally use ChatGPT. I think it's easy to have on your phone. The thing I love about it is it's very easy to use with audio. I
Yeah,
know that that's, maybe a silly reason to do it, but for me, it's very helpful. And sometimes I can just like ask it questions as I'm doing other stuff. So that really helps me. Claude AI is also certainly very helpful for other things. They do tend to give different types of responses. So again, just kind of keep in mind that you can compare those things. In terms of tools, as I'm kind of learning new things, I found that the LangChain framework has been super powerful. So if that's not something that you're aware of yet, I would definitely recommend that you check it out. It is a framework that allows you to like orchestrate more specific flows as you're implementing GenAI applications. So I would definitely recommend that as something that people will take a look at if they haven't. And another tool is not exactly Gen AI specific, but it is like a package out there that you can use for building Gen AI demos and like just front ends in general. It's
you
called
tell us
it's
more.
it's called Streamlit, and
Okay,
I've seen very fancy demos be built in Streamlit. So if you're like looking to impress your boss or like whatever, check out Streamlit. It's like a Python package. It's super easy to use and set up, and you can just build up some very nice interfaces very quickly for your Gen AI, like chatbots or whatever it is you're doing.
that's
So
great.
yeah, so I'd recommend those two.
Thanks for sharing those. Do you have a piece of advice for the All Things community around AI or just in general to make their lives easier?
Hey, this is Todd with All Things Open. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. We've got a lot of new content coming we think you're going to be interested in. One final favor, be sure to go to allthingsopen.org to see everything that we do. Back to the video.
I think one piece of, maybe this is not a piece of advice, but this is more just a comment. Somebody I work with has helped me out with, as we're all getting into that space. Just one thing to keep in mind is don't feel like you're late to the ball game. Like this is still sort of the beginning of this evolution of generative AI. So, like, yes, a lot of things are already out there, lots of models, lots of different tools, but don't feel that you're behind and like your knowledge is like so far behind from everybody else. Just know that there's a lot to learn, but at the same time, you're not like far behind, and that should encourage people to learn things. Like, hopefully, that is the message I'm trying to
Got it.
to get through. That people should be encouraged to like pick up and learn these tools, and just be curious in your organization, like how you can potentially affect change, and if there is like something that you can put together that may make a difference, or to simplify a process, something like summarizing notes from meetings or something that you can showcase to like your manager or your team that would be easiest. Take a stab at it. Like, why not?
Perfect. Yeah. And so, with that said, if someone's brand new to this and they feel like they're late to the game, they're not, as
They're
we just
not.
said.
They are not late to the game.
What's one thing they can do just to dip their toes in the water? Like, is it ChatGPT? Like, what can they do to get started or just to try something? Is it an LLM? Like, I don't know what would that look like?
Well, certainly, training LLMs can be pretty complex. There's a lot of LLMs out there, but I would just start with things that are available. Like it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. You go to YouTube and just like type in a simple use case, right? The use cases we see the most widespread are chatbots.
Yeah.
Or some kind of RAG, retrieval augmented generation bots, right, that help you respond to questions grounded in some kind of context for your company. Go and learn about chatbots with LLMs and how to do that. There's a lot of different videos and trainings that'll step you step by step on how to do it, whether you're running it on Azure or if you're running it on AWS or anywhere you want, and they'll show you what kind of tools you can use, and you can learn a lot from that. So I would just say, yeah, chatbot and RAG. Type that in and
Got it.
and learn about it.
Okay. I want to ask you one more question. Tap into your passion around healthcare. How can AI help with healthcare if we can't have personal information in there?
I would say my answer to that would be that the healthcare domain is so vast. There are just so many use cases, right? Not all use cases have to do with personally identifiable information. Some of them don't. Some of them have to do with, implementing better clinical protocols or like optimizing, for example, hospital resources or staff and things like that. Like they may not have to do anything with personal information at all. So it really depends on the use case. That's the
Okay.
first thing I would say. Excuse me. And the second thing I would say is even with the PII or the personally identifiable information, there are models that do allow that in them. Again, you just have to be careful with the end user license agreement and obviously how you store the model, like inputs before and after, so you don't like compromise that data. But there are ways to, for example, Bedrock is a service on AWS that I spoke about a little bit earlier. That is a service that can be used in HIPAA environments, which is the healthcare certification, right?
Right.
And you are able to use some models on Bedrock for HIPAA compliant data.
Okay.
So it depends. But again, the question is very broad. So I would say that first, pushing off from your use case, just keep in mind that not all of them involve PHI.
Okay. I have one more just because I'm curious.
Sure.
How can GenAI improve healthcare in general? What are some of the opportunities there?
What are some of the opportunities? So one of the ones that I named, I think is a big one, would be to optimize things. Like there's just so much waste in the healthcare system in general, like hospital beds that are not being used, for example, or like staff being, allocated to shifts that maybe they don't need to be on. So like things like that, like optimization and schedule optimization, that could be a big use case that has come up. Another use case that's very, very valuable is clinical trials matching. There's so many clinical trials out there for different treatments and medications that often they don't find enough candidates for because it's actually very difficult to do. You have to make sure that the candidates meet certain inclusion criteria and also exclusion criteria, which can be quite complex based on age, their previous conditions, etc. So there have already been many research papers that have been published for LLMs being applied to that space, and they have been shown to show significant improvement with being able to find better cohort identification for clinical trials, as opposed to just doing like standardized SQL queries against databases. So that's another big one, I would say. There's also use cases for medical image improvement, like if you're trying to look for certain kinds of patterns or diseases in images. LLM models for images have been very powerful to help like a radiologist, for example, better identify tumors or growths and things like that. So those are like the three big ones that I'm thinking about, but there's certainly more personalized chatbots for claims processing, right? To help a person ask about their claims and like the status of their claims, etc. Personalized nutrition advice and like exercise advice and things like that. So I think the use cases are quite broad.
Well, that's very exciting. If I'm honest, it's very exciting to hear that we can see some of this in our lifetime. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely not that far away. Some of the customers I work with definitely have a lot going on there. So I think you're gonna be able to see a lot of that soon.
Awesome. Anya, this is amazing. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We'll see you at All Things Open.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.